Now, KMJ's Sunday Conversation with your host, Alexandre Balakian. Sponsored by Gar Bennett. At Gar Bennett, we help growers feed the world.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into an all-new Sunday Conversation exclusively right here on KMJ. I'm your host, Alexandre Balakian. By the way, I'm also in the market of a free $400 million airplane. So if you know of anyone giving one away, please DM me. I'd love to have one. Sunday Conversation is everywhere you are, and we are in demand because we are on demand. We podcast where you podcast. And who says I have a face for radio? I'm sure my guest thinks that. We're also in high def on YouTube at KMJ Sunday Conversation, an action-packed show this Sunday morning, including we have the Fresno Diocese Bishop, Father Joseph Brennan, is going to join me exclusively, how he learned of the new pontiff and what Pope Leo XIV, the American Pope, means for the California Diocese, who is on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. Also, Derek Carr, he calls it a career. How should Carr be remembered? We'll have some reflection on that as well. But first, ever hear of the May revise? Well, it's budget time. Governor Newsom wants to pump more money into homelessness for those who only abide by his rules of engagement, which means clean up those encampments, and for another years of taxpayers that will continue to foot the bill for undocumented migrants receiving free health care. But now he wants to redline that in 2026 as California now faces a $12 billion deficit. What does that mean here on the local level? Mayor Dyer, he's proposing the city of Fresno cut $50 million out of their general fund, which means a hiring freeze and eliminating outside spending on vendors. Fresno County also facing a deficit. The big debate really involves that 30-year roads tax. Yes, Measure C. Remember that? Measure C. Some guy in front of me loved Measure C. So let's bring in my guest. Bring in the one supervisor who loves to mix it up. I know he does on the dais with his fellow supervisor. He calls himself the change agent. I call him Supervisor Garry Bredefeld, who actually, I don't know why he did it, but he did. He actually gave me a proclamation in front of the city of Fresno. So welcome back. How are you? Thanks for coming on Sunday Conversation. How are you?
Always a pleasure being with you, Alexandre.
Yeah, and he really means that, folks.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I am going to start with Measure C. There is another whopper of a story that exploded this week with community health systems and the unsealing of the Department of Justice, where community health system will have to pay out a $31.5 million fine. We're going to get to that, but I want to start with this budgetary stuff. First and foremost, Garry, what's the Fresno County budget looking like as you get ready to work around, maybe redline some stuff? What's the deficit look like for Fresno County?
We have a number that floats around $15-20 million, and we're looking to close it through some cuts. We were looking at furloughs, but we have turned that down. I was not comfortable, as board members were not comfortable looking at that. We want to make sure everybody who has to deal from paycheck to paycheck has all of their resources to do that. But like the state budget, like the city budget, same thing with the county. We have a shortfall, and we're looking to make cuts and do things that close that shortfall.
Where's that one thing that you're looking at that you're going to say, we got to get rid of it?
Well, I don't think there's anything that I look at that we got to get rid of. I think we always have to make sure that each department is operating at its peak efficiency. We got to make sure that those departments that need the resources, the manpower, for example, like correctional officers, like district attorneys, they're hurting in a big way. And so we have committed resources to the correctional officers. We're discussing district attorney pay right now. So we are, at my request, having department heads come before us. We have a budget process that has to be completed by October. Typically, the county has not had department heads come before the board and present their budgets, but we are going to do that. And I think it's at that point where the public hears exactly what's going on in each department. And there are a lot of departments in the county, from social services, public health, district attorney, sheriff, and so on. And that's what the board has to do, determine what its priorities are and make cuts where they need to make cuts.
Obviously, you heard Governor Newsom say we're in a $12 million hole, a $12 billion hole, sorry, excuse me, with a B. And so I'm wondering from you, how much of what's happening in Sacramento is bleeding into Fresno County?
Well, always a lot. You know, I was just at a separate board meeting, not the county board, but a health board meeting. And, I was told, as I requested this information, that there are 1.6 million illegals. They call them undocumented, but they're illegals on Medi-Cal. 1.6 million. On the local level in Cal Viva, there's about 56,000 out of 500,000 people. So we have basically about 11 to 13% of people that our taxpayers are funding who are here illegally. Now imagine if we didn't have to be paying those kinds of services, the savings that there would be, that you could be plugging up holes like this. So there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of misuse of money. It's certainly at the state level. We had SB1 funds that were supposed to be a new tax that was supposed to be paying for roads. They're not paying for roads, so they raided that fund as well. I wish, frankly, Elon Musk and Doge could come and do a job on the state of California. You could only imagine the corruption that's taking place in Sacramento, led by the devil himself, Governor Newsom.
You know, I'm also wondering, you left, as I kind of steer away from that. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you on that. There's no point. You'll probably win that argument. My point being is that you left city council. You ran for supervisor saying, I'm leaving the city of Fresno in a good place. We've done A, B, C, and D. And I obviously safety, the crime rate went down and all these things, but they find themselves in a $50 million hole.
I think the economy, there's been a somewhat of a contraction from the economy. And so it impacts all of us. It impacts the state level and on the local level and in the federal level. Prior to that, we seem to be doing well. But we always, at the city budget, there was always a bit of a shortfall. There's nothing new here. We continue to have services. Fees continue to go up. Services cost more money. And so there's really nothing new. You just have to figure out how are you going to close this and have a balanced budget. And that's what, Newsom's doing. But Newsom does things that, here on the local level, thankfully for most of us, we don't do. We don't go seeking out illegals and decide how we're going to pay for health insurance for them, have them enter our school system, give them driver's license, send them to colleges, all on the taxpayer dime. He's able to get away with that with the other radical lunatics that are in the legislature. They support all of this insanity. So it costs money, and they have a $12 billion shortfall. No surprise there. Here on the local level, there are things that I don't support clearly that took place at the city that I voted against that I don't support. Some of that involving people who are here illegally as well. But at the county, I think, there's a little bit more sane approaches to dealing with things, but we still have a shortfall, and we have to find a way to balance that budget, and we will. And
the reason why we're kind of laying that out, that foundation out, is now I want to get to Measure C. And the reason why I say that is because this fell apart quickly. You were on the city council the last time it was really on the ballot, and now, but it didn't pass. It
passed with requiring 2/3 vote.
Right. So now, Measure C it could be up on the 2026 ballot once again. It's in danger of expiring.
Yes.
Where the county could lose billions in transportation funding. Your good former friend, have you guys hugged it out yet, you and Steve Brandow?
No.
Did he ever congratulate you on your victory?
Yes, he did. And I saw him today, and we shook hands, and so.
Oh, how cute. All right. So he has been tasked, apparently, to kind of get Measure C across the finish line. How much will you be working with your old running mate?
Well, let me tell you the truth.
I wouldn't say running mate, your old competitor.
Let me tell you the truth about Measure C. I walked during the campaign for a year and a half. I walked to 21,000 doors. I talked to thousands of people, walked 35 to 40 miles a week. And you know what people told me? They want their streets fixed. They've been promised their roads and streets and curbs and gutters would be fixed for the last 30, 40, 50 years. And you know what wasn't fixed for the most part? Their roads, streets, curbs, and gutters. Now, Measure C came in 1986, and it was to build highways. That was great. We needed to do it. It was renewed in 2006. And then in 2022, it got hijacked by radicals, environmental radicals, a foundation that is well funded, and now this is coming before the voters again in Measure C in next year. And what's going to happen again is these environmental radicals who prefer to talk about climate change and bike lanes and light rail rather than fixing people's roads are going to hijack Measure C again, and it's going to be a problem. Now, they hired Steve Brandow, since you mentioned him, to bring a compromise between the radicals and people who are sane who want their streets fixed. It's not going to work. What's going to happen is that a well-funded foundation run by the former mayor, Ashley Swearingen, who has rich donors, are going to probably collect signatures and bring their own, quote, Measure C, which will create confusion. Will only require a 50+1 vote, as opposed to if the Board of Supervisors put Measure C on, it will require 2/3 vote. And I've said very clearly, I'm not supporting anything, any Measure C that doesn't have at least 80 to 90% of it committed to the pledge they gave its citizens, which is to fix their roads, streets, and curbs and gutters. The city of Fresno has $1 billion, with a B, in deferred maintenance on roads. Deferred maintenance. The county is not very different. If we don't fix people's roads, if we don't use their taxpayer money to fix their roads, which was the promises that they've been kept from SB1, Measure C, and all that, I will not support it. If we have a Measure C that is 90% for that, I'm fully on board and going to support it.
What does your gut tell you right now?
My gut tells me that with the environmental radicals and this foundation that's going to do something different, it's going to create so much confusion, it will not pass.
It will not pass. And so expires the roads tax.
It'll be a tragedy for this area.
Wow. All right, we got to take a break. Here's the headline. Community Health accepts $31.5 million fine, settling with the DOJ, settling kickback allegations that include Vegas strip clubs and trips to Europe. What is it about? How does Garry Bredefeld, the supervisor of Fresno County, how does he respond to this explosive report? That's coming up next on Sunday Conversation. Welcome back to KMJ's Sunday Conversation. My guest, supervisor of Fresno County, Garry Bredefeld, is here in the hot seat, if you will. Here's the headline, pretty explosive, and this is from the San Joaquin Valley Sun. And the Business Journal actually first reported it, but the San Joaquin Valley Sun actually goes into great detail of this DOJ report. Community Health accepts $31.5 million settlement, a fine from the Department of Justice, yes, on the federal side, settling kickback allegations that include strip club to Vegas and trips to Europe. Basically, this is what happened. I'm going to try to condense this a little bit due to time constraints. 2019 whistleblower from the Physicians Network Advantage, which works with Community, an affiliate. They were basically giving them referrals of patients from their doctors to make sure that they did all the services with Community healthcare. Basically a pay-for-play, a bribe here and there. I'm going to go down with some allegations that were printed in this report. So started in 2019 with a whistleblower, but this really dates back to many years of this happening, and it's illegal. And so they finally unsealed the report this week. And so now we have another hospital here in the Central Valley that is in a PR nightmare, who has done nefarious things according to a DOJ report. And I wanted to get the supervisor's thoughts on this because, Garry, let's be honest, you were out front when you saw the Valley Children's report and Todd Suntrapak's contract and what the board approved in that contract. Yep. How do you respond to this?
Well, I think it's an outrage. It's disgraceful. It's shameful. I read what they acknowledge. They've acknowledged this. They're paying a $31.5 million fine. So it continues to crush the trust that people ought to have with their medical community. It was destroyed during COVID with all of the ridiculous mandates that too many physicians supported, and that violated the trust between patient and physician. And now you have this, as you said, pay for play. And so it's a disgrace. There's nothing else I can say other than Now the DOJ, thankfully, has exposed this due to a whistleblower, thankfully, and they have put in place oversight so this doesn't happen again. And I imagine this will never happen again with Community because they've been caught doing this, but it's a disgrace.
So what were they caught with? Well, let's go down the claim here. Community. And again, this is all part of the claim in the report. You can read it on the DOJ's own website. Please do so. Per the claim, Community provided cash, expensive wine, cigars, strip clubs, trips, private planes, other benefits to physicians in exchange for patient referrals. They also discovered the kickbacks after a 2017 fire at P&A's headquarters. Yeah, there was a fire that broke out at the headquarters. It revealed a surplus of expensive wine that was being held there for Community Health System. Also filed a claim against Sante Health System, Sante Health Foundation, former Community CEO that suddenly resigned, Craig Castro, Timothy Jocelyn, Community Executive, Berj Abkarian, who is the Armenian consulate, the honorary Armenian consulate here for Fresno, Central California Faculty Medical Group, and several other executive positions. So what is that about? Well, how about Castro and his family, according to the report, took a family vacation on P&A's dime. It's 2014, worth $63,000. Executives had strip clubs and meals paid for by P&A in January of 2016 while they were in Vegas for conferences. In June 2016, P&A also paid for a trip to Napa Valley for Castro and other executives, totaling $20,000. Bottles of wine that totaled $53,000, and so on and so forth. What do you make of that?
As I said, it's disgraceful conduct by Community and that affiliate, and anybody who participated, certainly the CEOs, any administrators, and any physicians that were part of that scheme. It's a disgrace, and it's disgusting. Okay,
you called for an investigation.
We did.
Of Valley Children's.
Yes.
Are you going to do that?
They've already had the investigation. It's done.
But on a Fresno County level, is it just done?
It's done. They had a settlement, $31.5 million. I don't know if they'll be bringing other charges. That I don't know. But it's now been exposed to the public. There's been a settlement. Communities had to pay $31.5 million. I read where the whistleblower also received $5 million as a result of his exposing this. So I think that it's done and it's been released to the public. I don't know that anything else will follow, but I think clearly the fact that this has now seen the light of day, the fact that the DOJ has instilled oversight now so this will never take place again. I'm pleased by that, but disgusted by what took place.
So hospitals, they have foundations. They raise a lot of money.
Yep.
Really with the help of the entire community. And I want to read something here per the report, the claim. Community Hospital contributed around $1.1 million to renovate P&A's headquarters to build a state-of-the-art wine and cigar lounge, which includes a refrigerated wine room, high-end lounge seating, private humidor, lockers for cigars, state-of-the-art smoke ventilator system, and thousands of bottles of luxury wine and liquor valued at $750,000 all the way up to $1.2 million. How does a hospital that doesn't get paid back, maybe half of what they need to get paid to obviously continue to do what they do, which is free health care?
Agreed.
How do they afford this?
I don't know how they afford it. We looked at as you mentioned about Valley Children's, they have $2 billion in assets. They spent $10 million to rename Valley Children's Stadium. And yet, what incensed me most about that back then was they also had children who had cancer, and they said they couldn't provide certain treatments to them and had to send them to Stanford, yet they had $1.2 billion in cash assets and $2 billion overall. That was disgusting to me, along with, of course, how they were paying all of their CEOs and the people below them. That's another story. How the community that struggles with all kinds of finances does not have the dollars that Valley Children's does I don't know how they were able to pull that one off. I have no idea.
So will county supervisors like yourself be watching closely?
You know, I can't speak for other county supervisors, but I think my record is very clear that when I'm aware of things that should be exposed, I expose them. I've done that at the city council when, unfortunately, we had some council members who were spending exorbitant amounts on credit cards that they shouldn't have been doing and that were inappropriate. We shed light on that. Clearly, with Valley Children's is another thing. And I'm bringing transparency and accountability to the board when it comes to budgeting process. So that's what I've been all about. And, you know, it's disheartening to see that this was taking place. But I'm thrilled and grateful to the DOJ for exposing it, investigating it, and coming down with this kind of penalty, which I think will make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Just a couple of minutes here. Time flies, right? James Coos, he's running for re-election. Mm-hmm. Your former colleague on the Diocese at Fresno City Council, Mike Carbassi, is also running for this seat, which is Registrar of Voters, County Clerk. Well, who are you going to endorse Mike Carbassi?
I already have endorsed Mike. Yeah, Mike is a good friend of mine, and so I'm supporting him in that race. And look, there clearly are problems within the county clerk's office. And let me just say that James Coos is a nice person. I've met with him, talked with him. He's always been helpful as I've had questions. But the fact that it takes every time almost till the certification date to count all the votes is a problem. You know, when you can have Florida that has 9 million people get the results that evening, but it takes 30 days or more to count votes, even in a special election where there's just a few thousand voters, we have a problem. And so that is something that is on my radar to address as a Board of Supervisor. And certainly I support Mike in his effort to become the county clerk.
All right, here's a loaded question to end this beautiful conversation. There's a lot of birds chirping out there, Garry, that you're running for mayor 2028 for the city of Fresno.
Well, listen, I have a lot of people who encourage me to run for a lot of things. And, you know, I'm very proud of the fact that we unseated an incumbent. It's not easy to do. And we have a lot of support, and people know that I'm a straight shooter and I say it like it is. And certainly people have been encouraging me to run. I never say never, but right now my focus truly is a budget that we have to balance and making sure that I represent the people who elected me to the best of my ability for the next 3.5 years.
You are not ruling out a run for mayor.
I am not ruling out a run for mayor, but I am focused on my job.
Well, that's the great political. You see, he's just a great politician there.
It's the truth.
Supervisor Garry Bredefeld. Thank you so much. Are you going to come back?
Anytime you want, Alex, and you know I'm a phone call away.
Yes, you are. All right. Thank you so much. All right, coming up next here on Sunday Conversation, yes, we're going to talk with the Bishop, Bishop Brennan, and this new dynamic. We have an American Pope. What does that mean for the California Diocese? We'll talk with the Bishop next. Welcome back to KMJ Sunday Conversation. I'm your host, Alexander Balakian. All right, it's been a little over a week now, and guess what we have? We have some breaking news this week because, yes, the 267th Pontiff, the American Pope, as we like to call him, Pope Leo XIV, guess what? He's officially on social media, but not as Cardinal Prevost, but now as the Pontiff. Pontiff EX or Pontiff X. He's taken over Pope Francis's Instagram, 1.4 million followers. His first post this week, and simple: peace be with you all. And so let's talk about all of that with someone that is very familiar to you and our entire Central Valley, somebody that is very familiar with the process of how the Pope Leo came to be, and that is our very own Catholic Diocese Bishop, Joseph Brennan. He is here on KMJ Sunday Conversation. Welcome, Bishop. How are you?
Great to be here, Alexander. I'm doing very well.
Well, first and foremost, let's talk about when that white smoke came out of the conclave there in the Vatican. Your first thoughts when you saw that?
Well, I had some thoughts right before that, and had the wonderful privilege of being able to see it live because I was at home. And I won't go into the reason why. It was wonderful seeing the crowd as they were being banned, and tons of young people, but people of all ages, but just they saw the white smoke as well. But even before that, there was a sense of immense excitement and immense joy with people from all over the world gathered together, excited. And then when the smoke came out white, the burst of joy from their voices. The joy was palatable. You could feel it.
And so when they finally pulled back the curtain, and out came obviously the announcement, we have a new pope, and there it was. I think a lot of shock for a lot of us, because it wasn't the name that a lot of us were expecting, and that was Robert Prevost,
yes,
a cardinal, and who worked very closely with Pope Francis, and actually Pope Francis brought in Cardinal Prevost, but now he's Pope Leo the 14th. Were you surprised at the selection?
I was surprised, because although every time this happens, there's a short list of papabili, those were people think might be the next pope. He was on some lists, but not near the top on any one of them. And the likelihood of an American being named the Pope, it was so remote. And yeah, I was shocked.
So I would almost want to think about time. Is that fair to say? It's about time, or is that something maybe on that side of the world they were more? Were we more shocked, or were they more shocked there in the Vatican?
I think they were more shocked than we were, and there might have been a little bit of it's about time on our part, because we're Americans after all. But we, as Americans too, we have a sense that we belong to this amazing family of God called the Church, with people from all over the world. There were cardinals from every corner of the earth gathered to make that choice. So it's an amazing choice that they arrived at, we believe, by the working and the intercession of the Holy Spirit. But yeah, I was surprised just as much as anybody. Kind of disappointed, because now, for the first time in my life, I'm older than the Pope.
Well, I'll say this. Have you ever met the Cardinal, or now the Pope Leo the 14th? Have you ever met him?
No, I've never met Leo the 14th. I look forward to meeting him every 5 years. Every bishop throughout the world has to go to Rome to, in a sense, make a report about their diocese. Mm-hmm. It's called the Ad Limina Report, Latin for literally to the footstep of the Pope. And we're overdue in Fresno. I did that a little over 5 years ago. I suspect it'll be postponed a bit with this transition, but fairly soon, I'm hoping I'll be summoned with a bunch of bishops from California as well, and we'll go to Rome and meet him face to face.
And the name Leo the 14th, obviously, not since Pope Leo the 13th. I mean, this is some history here. Is the name in line with how it should go? And as Pope Leo, I guess, when the California Diocese looks at it, is it the perfect name?
Well, no such thing as a perfect name, but this would be close to it. Pope Leo the 13th was a bridge and a transition figure, not a placekeeper, but one who was truly in his own day and age. And the Industrial Revolution was a bridge builder, and someone who influenced the culture and the society of his time throughout the world. And that's what popes do. And I believe Leo the 14th chose that name for that and other reasons too. That's what the very title pontiff means, pontifex, a bridge. And he stated it himself, Leo the 14th, very, very recently this past week. He wants to be that bridge in this culture and this society in this new technological revolution. And an environment where the rights of peoples, the rights of individuals, the dignity of the human person, the dignity of labor, and so many other social issues that were pertinent a century ago, they're pertinent today. And Leo the 14th is a wonderful name.
You use this word transition, and I'm wondering from you, the California Diocese is very much in transition. Yes. It's been well documented, as you know, and a lot of people already know, the diocese in California has filed for bankruptcy with all the sexual assault lawsuits that have been. I think there's over 100 of them. Am I right by saying that?
154 to be
54.
Yes.
So filing for go ahead. Allegations, yeah, and filing for bankruptcy. And I'm wondering because the Vatican had said they had obviously there's no inner workings there and no direct connection where the Vatican can help out the California diocese.
Correct. No, they don't assume that financial responsibility.
But I am wondering, what does it mean to have an American Pope for the California diocese while they go through this hardship of bankruptcy, yes, and to hopefully have this rebirth of the California diocese?
Well, just one quick clarification. The diocese has not yet filed, or we're in the process. We did declare our intent to do so a year ago, this May, in fact. So we're in the process. We're in a time of preparation, but I suspect we will be doing this along, as you say, with many other dioceses in the state of California. An American Pope is not going to interfere with the process, will not, in a sense, intercede in the process, but will be supportive of the process because it's a process that's intended to bring some measure of justice to real victims. Because there are real victims here. There are real perpetrators. Now, every case stands on its own. Some cases may not have merit, or as much merit as is being claimed, or that we would like. But in the end, there are real victims who need real attention and as much compensation as we can muster. And no financial compensation is going to heal that. Horrible damage that was done to them.
And being, especially in the Fresno diocese, where, you have been very much outspoken about some of the things that are happening politically. You wrote an op-ed not too long ago in the Fresno Bee about some of the immigration roundups that were taking place or allegedly taking place. Yes. And this new Pope Leo XIV, who is an extension of Pope Francis, wasn't necessarily on the same wavelength of the Trump administration. Is it hard to separate church and state?
Well, we have that separation anyway on an historical level, and it's right there in our Constitution, and we honor that and respect that. And for me, when I get involved or make any kind of statement regarding a social issue, in particular immigration as an example, and one that I recently have gone public on, but have never been private about. For me, it's not so much political, Alexan, as it is. It's a spiritual issue. It's an issue of faith. It involves people's lives and livelihood. It involves their sense of well-being and their sense of security in a land that may not be their own. And our scriptures, our gospel, our Lord Jesus Christ, if nothing else, is teaching us that God's family is a big family. There is room for others. I understand there are limits to what a country can do, and resources are limited. I get all of that, but whatever is done must be done with respect for human dignity, and it must be done with decency, and that's not political for me.
Right, and I'm wondering, Pope Leo XIV being an American Pope, how close do you think he should be working with the Trump administration during this time of transition, and some of these hard political choices that the Trump administration is now making?
Yes, I suspect that our Holy Father Pope Leo XIV will be would be very open to collaborating with any government where people's lives are at stake, where their freedoms are at risk, or where any suffering of any kind might be mitigated or even eliminated. So I think he would be willing and able to engage in that dialogue and collaboration. And the fact that he's American, he's really more Peruvian than American now. Although his English is pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Speaks 5 languages.
He's a brilliant man, but apart from that, he's a pastoral man. He gets to the heart of the matter, every matter before him. That's so clear to me, so self-evident it seems already. But he won't be in anybody's hip pocket, Alexandre. He will not be anybody's puppet, and I believe he's going to be a pope of charity, combined with, I think, intense clarity, a very clear teaching, sometimes strong teaching that some of us, myself included, may not want to be on the receiving end of, but by God, he's my pope, and I will listen and I will obey. I don't give provisional or conditional obedience or acceptance to a pope, until that, whatever pope is in that chair of St. Peter comes around to my way of thinking. That doesn't work that way. We submit. It's a discipline. That's where the word disciple comes from.
On this level in the diocese that you obviously represent as the bishop here in Fresno in the Central Valley, all the way up to the cardinals, I believe 133 of them who exactly. Casted a vote, if you will. Is there something within the pipeline from here to the Vatican? And I don't know if there, I'm just asking this because I don't even know. Is there something that the diocese would like to see in transition? Is there something that's been missing?
I don't think there's been anything that's been missing. I hate to sound like a particular politician who couldn't think of anything that she would do differently. But Pope Francis, his predecessor, was leading the church with his vision. He named 80 of those 133 cardinals who voted. So I'm not surprised that it only took them 24 hours to come to a consensus, because 80 of them, you can presume, shared a similar, a very similar vision, and would share Pope Francis's vision. And I think the other 53 didn't just acquiesce, they listened as well. And I think they listened to each other. It was a marvelous, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. We will never know exactly what takes place behind those closed doors of the conclave. It'd be fascinating to know that. We never will. But I can only do my own kind of reverse engineering. But I really believe something marvelous happened. A true consensus was reached. And I have not heard or seen or witnessed any negative, pejorative pushback from any of the cardinals. And no matter what end of the spectrum they might be on or people might think they're on. So I think there's a lovely unity of purpose in this. It's marvelous.
I'll finish with this. A lot of people may already know this. Maybe a lot of you who are listening don't know this, but Bishop, we were honored to, my wife and I were honored to have you do our ceremony. And, a lot of people don't know that you can just belt out a lot with a mariachi band. You can really put on a concert, I tell you. And I'm wondering from you, you've been in this role since 2019, is that correct?
Yes.
We love having you here. But is there any thought of you moving up, or is Fresno your forever home?
Oh, Fresno is my forever home, Alexandre, for a number of reasons. First of all, anyone who has those kind of aspirations shouldn't be on the receiving end of a transition like that. I won't even call it a promotion, because we don't see it. I don't see it that way. No, I was kind of surprised I ended up in the Diocese of Fresno in the San Joaquin Valley, but I'm so happy that I did. And I'm 71 right now, so I don't think that I'm too old to be moved. So I kind of hope they forget about me and leave. No, the powers that be do, and just leave me here and let me even go beyond the retirement age for bishops and just forget that I'm here and I can still do what I'm doing.
Well, we are happy to have you here. We are honored to have you here, and I appreciate you coming on and really kind of spelling out what this new transition means for not only in the Vatican, but here in America as well. I appreciate the time.
Alexandre, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bishop Brennan here on the Sunday Conversation. We're back with more here on KMJ. Finally, here on Sunday Conversation, let's get social and reflection on one of my favorite athletes I have ever covered from the ripe age of 10 years old. What do you do after you retire at the age of 34? Well, Derek Carr is now trying to find the answer to that question, but maybe he already has answered it. He has a new podcast show with his brother David called The Homegrown Network on YouTube, and he's channeling his inner daddy daycare, having the kids run sprints, weight lift, and of course, tackling that honey-do list. He's also on a quest to earn his PGA Tour card. Derek is hardly looking in the rearview mirror these days as his 11-year NFL career came to an abrupt end after he learned his throwing shoulder would need reconstructive surgery. So instead of chancing it, Carr just walked away from tens of millions of dollars left on his deal with the Saints. Carr finished as the all-time passing king of the Raiders, four-time Pro Bowler, staged numerous late-game comebacks, and will always be known as the classiest dude in the locker room. And oh, by the way, Derek will be the most remembered for his career at Fresno State. And rallying the Bulldogs in the aftermath of Pat Hill's departure, Carr will also be known for saying all the right things for most of that dysfunctional NFL franchise. Yes, I'm talking about their 80s. How many head coaches? How many offensive coordinators? Who knows? I lost count at this point. So, if anyone is going to knock DC for only one playoff appearance, well, let me point out that the Raiders' so-called commitment to excellence is actually commitment to mediocrity. I'll never forget first meeting Derek, and I have it on tape. Yes, tape. It was that long ago. In my first year as a sportscaster in South Texas, it just so happened to be David's rookie season with the new expansion franchise, the Houston Texans. And there was Derek, throwing darts in training camp. So don't feel bad that Derek is ending his career just a bit early. He walked away with about $80 million, and I believe he'll have a higher calling. Derek and David will soon become coaches at Fresno State, and they will do something they couldn't while under center, and that's bust the BCS. If new head coach Matt Entz wants to win now, bring the Carr brothers aboard. And they're revving up for their next gear, and that's moving into the coaching ranks. Coach Carr and Coach Carr. Now that's homegrown, and that's Sunday Conversation. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great Sunday.